Good evening, everyone. I guess it's Mardi Gras, and everybody's like especially excited tonight. Yes, I can see everybody's got their beads on. It's a tough crowd to get settled down here. I'm Kate Markert. I'm Executive Director here at Hillwood Estate Museum and Garden. I am so sorry I was not able to be with you last week. I know I missed a fantastic talk. Yes, I know. I'm going to watch it on the video. But I'm very glad to be back with you all tonight for the final lecture. It's always sad. The final lecture in our Great Homes and Gardens series. It has really been a terrific series so far, and I always enjoy catching up with you upstairs at the members' receptions. And we also have a wonderful group in the simulcast each week, so I'd like to share my thanks with those of you who are watching from the other room. I know you know what I'm going to say next, right? Good. Take a moment to silence your phones or any other devices you might have in your pocket or bag or whatever. Now, I think many of you know that the original idea behind the Great Homes and Gardens series was to help us escape a cold and snowy February. That has not been so much of a problem this year. You may have seen we already have daffodils in bloom. But it's always a great idea to explore wonderful homes designed with great taste. So tonight we're going to turn our attention to the new Elegance, but before I go there, I'd like to give a plug for Elegance Classic. Now that is, in June, Hillwood will begin recruiting new mansion docents. Once selected, the class will spend the first half of next year exploring our grand mansion and learning about Marjorie Post, her art collections, and her lifestyle. If that interests you, or your best friend, or your niece, or your brother-in-law, please apply or have them apply to join us. Now, for those of you who perked up until I mentioned that we have a 6-month-long training, we are already recruiting for new visitor service volunteers. So these are the essential folks that welcome you when you arrive, who provide all the information you need to know in order to have a really great visit. And applications for that position are already available on Hillwood's website. We especially need people who are able to work on Saturdays and Sundays. So again, please help us to spread the word. So now we return to the new Elegance. And I'm absolutely delighted to welcome back tonight's speaker for his 3rd lecture here. I know he knows every one of you. He's been out this way. Oh, hello, Louise. How are you? Yeah. Timothy Corrigan has been hailed in Architectural Digest as today's tastemaker. He is known for his ability to create a world of European elegance that's infused with California comfortable. Timothy has been named to nearly every top designer list, including the Architectural Digest 100, Elle Decor, A-List, Robb Report's Top 40 Designers in the World, the Lux Gold List, Star of Design, Design Icon Award, and the ICAA Legacy Award. He is the only American designer honored by the French Heritage Society for his restoration of multiple national landmarks in France. His work has been featured in numerous publications worldwide, with offices in Los Angeles and Paris. His firm manages projects around the globe for clients ranging from Middle Eastern royalty, corporate leaders, and Hollywood celebrities. He has designed several successful licensed collections as well. Timothy's first book chronicled the restoration and decoration of his landmark chateau in France. Today, he will share insights from his new book, The New Elegance, Stylish, Comfortable Rooms for Today, which went into its second printing after just 2 weeks on the market. The new Elegance is, of course, available in the museum shop upstairs, and I know that Timothy will be delighted to sign copies at the desk just outside the theater following the lecture. Please join me in welcoming Timothy Corrigan.
Thank you so much. It's truly a great honor to be here. I actually love Hillwood. As if you can see even outside, I'm on the International Committee of Hillwood. I think it's such an amazing, special place, and all the people who are here are so special. I was speaking in Alabama last week, and people said, you know, what's going on with you? And I said, I'm going to Washington next week to speak at Hillwood. I tell you, people in Alabama know more about Hillwood than I think all the people in DC do. Hillwood truly is a real gem, and I wish more people here in DC knew about it, because it truly is so special. But you guys are the smart ones, so you're here. I really am. Again, thank you for coming tonight. I think that as Kate was talking about my first book, and then the second book doing so well, was, and I want to take you back, because Rizzoli said to me, you know, we want you to do another book, and I said, you know, I really don't think the world needs another book of pretty pictures of pretty rooms that people can't relate to, because they'll look at their own houses and they'll say, well, that's nice, but that's not my house. And I said, so the only way that I would do a book is if we can do sections in the book after each chapter that sort of says, okay, here's how this can relate to you. Here's how you can take some of the lessons from this and apply it to your own house, whether you're in a studio apartment or you're in a 15,000 square foot house. There should be lessons that you can learn. And I think that they at first they were like, well, we don't do how-to books. And I said, I promise it's not going to be a how-to book. I'll make it look good and everything else. And I really do think that I'm going to give you just a taste of this tonight about some of the lessons that I learned, and some of the issues that I came up against on some of these different projects. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a very sort of quick around the world tour. It's going to be, we're going to start out with, what is elegance, right? Well, elegance 100 years ago, when I say elegance, 100 years ago, look at, we all love the Crowleys. I mean, what a great family. I mean, God bless them. I mean, they were just fabulous. But let's face it, elegance was different 100 years ago. People lived differently 100 years ago than they do today. And they lived differently than they did 50 years ago. I don't know if any of you remember when people put plastic, on their furniture. That's what it took to be elegant. Was God forbid, you actually spilled or sat on that furniture and caused a spill. Those were rooms that were meant to be lived in, to be looked at but not lived in. They were look but don't touch. And that's how elegance kind of evolved, and it became like kind of a bad word almost, because you couldn't live in a space that was really elegant. And what I want to talk about is that how the world is changing, and how technology and things and the way we live in spaces truly allows you to live more elegantly than you ever had before, without all the staff that the Crowleys needed to live like that. So the idea is that what elegance really is about today is that it is about being livable, it's about being approachable, comfortable, beautiful, using your good things every single day. How many people here, I just want to ask a question, how many people save the good china for the holidays or for Thanksgiving? Good, you guys are smart. You see, you know about Hillwood, and you use your good china. Good, most people don't. Most people save their good china because it's got gold on it, and they feel, oh, I can't put it in the dishwasher, I can't use it. Bottom line is you actually can put your gold in the dishwasher. You can go up to 600 cycles before you start losing some gold. So use your china. But the bottom line is, the new elegance is about a way of living. It's a mindset of how you live comfortably in your house every day. Let me talk about elegance. Your definition of elegance and my definition and everyone's definition of elegant is different. So this concept is equally applicable whether you're interested in classical design or casual elegance or contemporary. You can live elegantly regardless of what your style is. And we as a design firm, we're right now doing a very ultra contemporary house in Dallas that's all concrete and glass and everything else. So it's not like I can only do one style. Elegance can apply to any style. It doesn't have to just be this sort of more traditional classic elegance. But we all want to live in a house that makes you feel good, that makes you feel that you are living beautifully, whatever your style is. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about today, is how you do that. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to go on a round the world tour. This is going to be one of those tours where if it's Tuesday, you must be in Brussels, and Wednesday you're going to be in Paris, and we're going to go really fast. But I took this suitcase because I'm hoping that you're going to learn and you're going to take some things away from this that will be sort of wonderful reminders of this world tour we're going to do. So we're going to start, and we're going to go to London. And I don't know about you, but I never go to London without my Burberry scarf and my Paddington bear. That's sort of the prerequisite to go to London. And this is a really interesting project we did in London. This is the outside of a house called Belgravia House. It was built in the 18th century before there even was the notion of a Belgravia Square or Belgravia. And guess what? It was not built anywhere near there. It's built in the middle of Mayfair. So it's a grade 2 historically listed house. It backs up onto Hyde Park and Park Lane. So it's this major house that was built in the 18th century for a different way of living. In the 19th century, it was chopped up and turned into apartments. In the 20th century, it was turned into an office building and into multiple little offices. And our clients bought it, and they said, we want to return it to a private house, back to the way it was in the 18th century, or at least as a private house the way it was in the 18th century, but for the way we live today. So we had, this is the, I think it's the second or third largest private residence in London after Buckingham Palace. And it's amazing, 7 floors, but I had the opportunity, because it had been stripped and gutted over the years, turned into first apartments, then offices, to basically recreate the entire space. So we actually were able to create small, intimate spaces, bigger, grander spaces, and yet it's very much about of the 21st century. So there's an indoor swimming pool, there's a theater, there's all those other things that are requisites for luxury living in the 21st century. So I took, let me take you inside. Okay, so this is one of the formal reception rooms, and it looks very formal and stuffy, and like, who would actually live there? Well, the behind that mirror is a television, so you turn the television on, it becomes visible. There's another television behind the mirror on this side. All this fabric, that beautiful blue sofa, is made out of outdoor velvet. It's perennial, so you can pour red wine on it. It doesn't stain. These chairs swivel and they recline, so they look like a very formal, uptight living room, but actually they work and live the way we live today. So this was one of the big rooms. We created a smaller room. This is a garden room that comes right off, right if you look out onto Hyde Park. And so I had this wonderful wallpaper commissioned. It's all sort of hand painted, where it looks like it's a continuation of the park, but it's this small, intimate room. And you can see how we continued the garden theme, for example, even on the chandelier, which has got the tree leaves, the oak leaves. This is a picture of the kitchen. The client said, I don't want a formal dining room per se. I actually want more of an American kitchen style, so where there's a place to sit over there, and there's a sofa, and there's a television, and there's the breakfast table. Again, all using outdoor materials, so you don't have to worry about how you live in that space. There is now great options in terms of fabrics and fibers. Even the table is made out of a composite stone, so it looks like a regular marble. It doesn't stain the way a regular marble does. So you can have all the luxury and the elegance, but you can use the elements of technology that actually create and let you live in it more comfortably. So again, a very unusual but very contemporary way of living in this 18th century house. So we're going to go from there. to the lesson that I learned on this project, which was the importance of scale and proportion. Because I had these 7 floors to make big rooms, small rooms, etc., I really had to consciously focus on, well, you need to have some big public rooms, but you need to have some smaller intimate rooms. You don't want bedrooms that are too big that they feel like where you feel like a dwarf in it. You also don't want them to be too small that you feel cramped. So it was a mixture, and so it was that aspect of figuring out scale and proportion which was so key. And I use this as an example. This is a kitchen that we did, which was a long, thin kitchen, but it had very tall ceilings. So what we did was we actually put that black and white floor on a diagonal. So you see how it's pushing your eyes out? It's making that room feel wider. This whole room is 6 feet between the cupboards wide. So it was long and thin, high ceiling. So, and then I created that table. That table is taller than average. The chairs are taller, so these are almost like bar stools. It brings your eye up. Taking the chandeliers, bringing them down. So it makes a very tall space not feel so tall and overwhelming, because this long, thin space makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So by making it feel wider and not as tall, takes the problem of this room was the scale and proportion was wrong. So I tried to minimize it there. Let me take another example. This is an apartment in Paris, where again, it's a small room, and the traditional thing is you don't put big furniture in small rooms. In this case, I actually did, because I wanted it to feel cozy and intimate. So here I played against the typical norm of the small room. Usually you would have spindly little gold furniture in the middle of the room. I put all the furniture on the outside, but made it big and comfortable, so it made it this intimate space. So it's taking the scale and proportion and working with it to create a feeling or ambiance that you wanted. And then the last one I want to show you on this is a bar, which we did at home, and it had a very low ceiling. And you can see by taking that mirror, we actually took that mirror and took it at a slight angle, so it's reflecting up on the ceiling. It's making the room feel taller than it is. So it's little tricks that you can do to make a space feel bigger, smaller, more intimate, whatever it is. And in the book there are a number of different examples of ways that you can do things to help augment, either address a problem or to enhance a benefit of a house. So that was one of the first lessons, is scale and proportion. We're going to go from London, we're going to go an easy trip across the channel to Paris. And you have to have a La Durée macaron if you're going there. And we're going to go to, this is actually my apartment in Paris. It's a wonderful little apartment. It was auctioned, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago at the, and it's an amazing location. I was just talking to people who were smart enough to buy it at auction. And it's located directly on the same street, the same block as Hermes. So it's right in the center, right between right next to the American Embassy, the British Embassy. And it's it's a wonderful apartment. And what this apartment is, what it's about is about symmetry, and what French architecture is really about is symmetry. So that if you've got, you can see on the left there's a light, on the right there's a light. If there's on the left there's a painting, on the right there's a painting. So this was a very symmetrical room, but it was full of doors. So I put the paintings in front of those doors to make the room feel more intimate. I took on the left, you can see there's a mirror opening. That was a door. I actually put a mirror into that door and then hung a painting on top of it as a way of creating the space to be lived in more easily. But then, to not make it feel cramped, that in the middle is not a mirror, that's a window looking into the next room, where there's a mirror, the same mirror, and the same chandelier. So it gives this a feeling that the room is actually bigger than it is because you're looking into the next room. But it's a play and a trick of the eye that you actually think that it's a mirror. So you can see you're actually getting infinity, because you're seeing the mirror reflected in the mirror and reflected in the mirror. So, because there's another mirror on this other side. So again, it's taking symmetry, and symmetry is very important because all research shows that we feel more comfortable in a space that is symmetrical. And the reason is your mind doesn't have to work as hard to figure it out. You kind of go, oh yeah, that's there, I got it. I don't feel uncomfortable in the space. One of the basic things about all all design, all architecture, is that you always want to make people feel at ease and comfortable. Symmetry is one of the easiest ways to get people feeling comfortable, because once they don't have to work so hard trying to figure out what the space is, they will feel more comfortable. So this next room in the apartment it was symmetrical, except it had on the left, it had a little alcove for a radiator, and the right didn't have one at all. So what I did was I put the doors in front of the radiator and then put the same doors on the right side, but those right doors don't even open. There's nothing there, but it gave symmetry to this room, which was an otherwise perfectly symmetrical room. My bedroom was a totally asymmetrical mess. To give you a sense, the window was not centered on the wall. The fireplace was not centered on the wall. The chandelier was not centered in the room. And you walked in and you were like, you weren't even consciously aware, but you were just aware that something was slightly off. So here the trick that I used was just cover all those aspects of asymmetry by just draping the whole room with curtains. And so what it does is you actually blocks, you don't get the sense that things are not symmetrical. It hides the defaults. And then taking this mirror, putting it in the same place on the wall where the window is that were there, gives you the sense of symmetry. So if I talked a little bit about, the last time I was here, I talked about the importance of symmetry, because it's really one of the things that I think is so important to look at in your homes. Look at how a room is symmetrical or not. But the interesting thing is there's not just one form of symmetry. There are multiple forms. And I just want to, I did this slide last time, and I want to do it again because I think it's such an important one to talk about, is that there's reflectional symmetry, which means that if something's not the same on the left, it's the same on the right, top, bottom, etc. There's rotational symmetry, which means that there's something at the center and then everything around the perimeter is the same and it all focuses in. That's another form of symmetry. Translational is where you have the same motif that's repeated over and over and over again. So you get a sense of, oh, there's some pattern here. I see. There's structure. I feel more comfortable in that space. Or there's asymmetrical, which is, frankly, if you walk into a room that's totally asymmetrical, you will not feel comfortable for very long. But asymmetry is a wonderful element to introduce into a room, just so that it doesn't get too boring or too staid and too symmetrical. So I want to just show you one example of each one of those and how we addressed it. This was a dining room. And on the left-hand side was, this is a house in Lake Forest, and on the left-hand side was a china cabinet. On the right-hand side, there was just a plain wall there, and there was no room to put a china cabinet in because there was a powder room on the other side. So what we did was, I didn't want to lose the space that china cabinet gave us, so I kept it, turned it into a bookcase, and on the right, that bookcase is all of 5 inches deep. We actually took real books and then cut them off with a jigsaw and put them on there. I felt a little badly doing that, but they were books in Danish, no one could read them. So. And it's the client's grandkids' favorite room because they go play with these sawed-off little books. But my point on all this is, imagine if the left had a bookcase or a china cabinet and on the right had something else. You'd feel off balance because everything else was symmetrical in this room. So that's a classic case of reflectional symmetry. Let's go to the other one, which is a little more complicated to understand, is rotational. Every dining, or not every room, but almost every dining room is rotational. You've got a table, you've got a chandelier over it, you've usually got chairs around it, whether it's a rectangle or it's a circle. All those chairs are usually the same, but even they're all pointing in towards the center where conversation occurs, which is where the table and the chandelier is. The traditional seating arrangement of a living room is sort of the same thing. A coffee table, seating around the space. One of the things that I think is important often is to have seating on all 4 sides to close it off. Otherwise, you feel a little open-ended. So again, that's the example of rotational. Here's translational. Here we took the Greek key pattern, and you can see that it gets repeated everywhere. So it's up here. It's here on the bed, it's here on this chest of drawers, it's here on the mirror right here. It's here on the crown molding here. You took that device, that element, and repeated it over and over again. So while the room itself was not necessarily symmetrical, by repeating the same element over and over again, you actually get the sense of structure and order, and makes the space feel more at ease, and your mind more calm. And so let me go to the last form, which is asymmetrical. Here's a space that's very symmetrical. There's the panel on the left, there's the panel on the right. There's the mirror, which is in its own way very symmetrical. The chair on the left, chair on the right. We consciously, oops, sorry, hang on. Now, see, I'm too fast on the trigger, hang on. Okay, get this one right. I designed this table to be asymmetrical, so that it was like this bunch of rocks and trees, because everything was going to be too symmetrical. By just introducing that one element, it's almost like an exclamation point. It's a point of surprise. It sort of says, look at me, but doesn't overwhelm and take over the whole room. So again, there are ways to use asymmetry, but you need to use them sparingly. You do not want the whole space to be asymmetrical. Okay, from Paris, we're going to go to the west coast of California. That's the Chateau Marmont in the Sunset Strip. And while the Sunset Strip is known to be a very sort of hip place, we're going to go to a house that was on the Sunset Strip, but is not a hip house. It's a classic Hollywood Regency house, and it was one of those houses that was built in the 20s, and either they ran out of money before they got to the inside, or they just didn't have any taste, because the inside had no molding. You'll see this next picture shows you it was just ugly. I mean, it had this basic simple little molding you can see here. Nothing special. Like, the outside felt special. You walked in and you're like, what happened here, right? So what this project really told me was the bones were really good at this house. The flow was really good. The layout was really good. It just missed any architectural detailing. At the time, I remember saying to the client, I said, well, it's certainly innocent of any architectural detailing, isn't it? I was trying to be polite, and it's innocent of any architectural detailing, isn't it? And they kind of laughed, and they said, I know, it's ugly. So, again, we created all this beautiful carved paneling in the living room. You can see going in, this is the plasterwork ceiling was not there. All the room is wood paneled. I designed this fireplace overmantel from the Chateau de Grousset in France, and put the convex mirror in. So again, it's these layers of architectural detailing which made the space more interesting. This wonderful octagonal breakfast room, which had corner cabinets in the two of the corners, so it was no longer an octagon. It was kind of a half octagon, half square. It was really kind of ugly. We took those elements out, those cabinets out, and reinforced the octagonal aspect by even, let's see if I can get this without churning it. You see that this medallion is octagonal. The breakfast table is octagonal, the rug is octagonal, and even the design on the rug has got octagonal patterns. So again, this is that aspect of translational symmetry, but it creates this wonderful sort of feeling of a room that has depth and texture. So again, it was adding all these architectural elements that made this house special. And for example, right now we're working on a penthouse in Denver, which is a brand new high-rise contemporary, and there's not a stick of architectural detailing anywhere. I mean, it's one of those sort of modernist boxes, but the clients want it to be a more traditional house. So we're actually adding all those architectural details, and it's one of the easiest things that you can do. So what we're going to talk about is the importance of adding architectural details, and I want to talk about the 3 different areas that are easy to do that. One of the first is floors. So the one on the left is a house we did in Beverly Hills, and I'm going to actually show it to you later, but the design of this floor was inspired by the Doge's Palace in Venice. So it had these wonderful curves and things like that. But the client wanted it to feel a little more young, a little more updated, so we put polka dots and stripes into the design. We then repeated that. This is a stage that's in part of the living room where we stenciled that same design onto the floors. Or on the lower left, where again, we took this wonderful marble pattern and created that. So floors are one way that people they sort of forget about as being an area that you can actually add interest into the house. The next is ceilings. I love skylights, but I think there's nothing uglier than looking up into a big big open skylight. So we often will take architectural detailings, like take wonderful grills or things like that, that actually can hide some of the details, hide some of the curse of that contemporary aspect of the skylight. On the one on the middle, you can actually see we actually hung a chandelier from the middle of that skylight. Or something as basic as just a simple ceiling medallion. It's just, and again, these can be ordered. I mean, this one, I think the one costs around $350, but it just makes all the difference in terms of adding some wonderful details to an otherwise very plain area. And this was an architecture, it was a new house that we worked on. The architect designed these wonderful arches. There's a series of arches that go out onto a pool and out to the ocean. So we repeated that motif. Right here you can see we created a series of arches that wrap around the room which have mirrors in them. So we just followed the architecture and continued the architecture around. Here's another example. This mirror here actually rises up to reveal a television behind it. So again, you can have 21st century technology, but it doesn't have to scream at you in every room. So again, architectural detailing are a very good way to add some depth to a house. Okay, we're going around the world. We're going to, this is Qatar, Doha, Qatar, which is the richest per capita country in the world. And there is camel racing there, which I've done, I will tell you. So this is a wonderful project we got to do. I've been lucky enough, the Royal Family of Qatar has been one of my favorite clients over the years. This was a new beach villa that we built, which is around 10 minutes away from the Royal Palace, which we also worked on. But this beach villa is right across the bay. This is one wing of it. It's 45,000 square feet, and this is just one wing. And they were very, I know you guys, that Hillwood has a wonderful connection with Palm Beach. Well, Palm Beach really was the inspiration for this house. And you're going to see in some of the photos where we really tried to take Addison Meisner and bring that whole look into it. So the detailing, etc., was very Addison Meisner inspired. And so to the left is the entryway off of from the pool and the sea, and you can see that I used a lot of blue to try to, but in very subtle ways, to remind you of being out at the ocean. So there's blue makuba on the floor. The table is made out of mother of pearl inlaid with malachite, and then on the ceiling, I wanted to create this wonderful sort of opalescent feeling of a sky with clouds and blue skies, etc. And it wasn't getting this magical feeling that I wanted. And I was talking with the painters, and I said, I want it to feel almost like a pearl. And then it occurred to me that Qatar, before they discovered that they had the second largest natural gas reserves in the world, they had been the pearl capital for many years. So I went down to the docks where they harvest the pearls, and I bought around 3 bags of broken pearl shards, and we crushed all the pearls up, mix them into the paint, and they actually create this incredible, I'll show you a picture a little later, of how opalescent this ceiling is. But it's by taking material that wasn't intended to be used that way and adding it and making it feel more special. In this one of the more formal rooms, we took lattice and used lattice as a way of creating elegance. So what you're going to see, and the whole takeaway on this one is going to be surfaces. It's taking interesting surfaces and making them make the house feel more special. This is one of the 2 living rooms. You can see another one over there. Again, I literally took the ceiling from a Palm Beach house. I took the inspiration from it, but again, so it has this wonderful feeling of the wood timber ceiling, and you can see the reflection, the shadows of the palm trees here that are outside. Well, actually, those are all trompe l'oeil. They're all painted, but it's to give that very subtle effect of the sun is coming in and those are the shadows of the palm trees. So it's taking a surface and just adding that little element that makes it feel more special. We're going to go from there to the left is one of the media rooms. We just took simple, inexpensive wallpaper. We cut it into squares. It was meant to look like pieces of wood. We cut it into squares and laid them in crosshatch, so it makes an interesting surface. The chandelier was made. Those are individual porcelain fish, and they're swimming in a circle, and there are 3 of these chandeliers in this room, but it creates this wonderful, again, this interesting, unusual surface. On the right, this is very subtle and hard to see, but there's a light blue little border here. It gets a little lighter, it gets a little lighter until you get up to the center where there's no blue at all. And that was to create this illusion of it just sort of going up to the sky. So again, taking this, just a simple little paint detail, which made the room feel more special. And I think that, again, so that to me, the lesson that I learned on this is that impactful surfaces used throughout the house can make a huge, huge difference. So let me take, this is an example of a wallpaper. This is a wallpaper that I designed for Fromenthal, and I saw an exhibit at the Getty Museum about Louis XIV's tapestries that he'd had woven in the 17th century, and they actually used real gold thread in these tapestries. So I took that inspiration and designed this wallpaper that had the ocean, and then had these beautiful sort of idea of drapes that are blowing in the wind, and we actually used real gold leaf to create this effect of the here, that's actually gold leaf that's created there to give the effect of the luminosity of the silk reflecting in the wind. But wallpaper is popular, it's big right now. There are amazing options for wallpaper. Wallpaper is a great way to make a lot of impact. And so with this very formal entry hall, it was a great way to create some wow and impact in this entry hall. The next thing that we're going to talk about is this is a dining room. This was a house, this was the people who developed Everyone Loves Raymond. And they bought this house, and it was a formal French house. There was beautiful French paneling in this room, and they went on vacation. We started the project, and they went on vacation to Italy for the summer, and they came back and said, stop, hold everything. We decided we want to change the whole direction. We want to make this a Tuscan farmhouse. So we took out all the paneling, which just broke my heart, and we found this reclaimed, we took old stone, old wood, and recreated this wonderful room that if I hadn't told you that was not Tuscany, you probably would have thought, well, yeah, it looks like a Tuscan farmhouse. So again, it's just saying how taking a surface can totally transform the way you experience a space. And this is on the right. This is a close-up of that picture of with the pearls crushed into you get the sense of, it had silver leaf, or white gold leaf, which are all these little squares, and then it was painted, but then we took the pearls crushed into it, so it has that incredible, almost heavenly feeling. On the left, we took a very traditional chandelier, which was a crystal chandelier, and we dipped it in chrome. So it made a whole different experience of how you experience that traditional chandelier. So again, these are just examples of how surfaces, and we take them for granted. We don't even notice necessarily, but a surface makes a huge difference. So if this is wood versus drywall, you're going to experience it differently. So when you go home, look at your rooms and look and see, whether there are things you can change easily, because there are easy changes you can do. And I'm going to get to it. One of the easiest changes in a moment is color. So let me move on. We're going to go to the Hollywood Hills, except we're actually going to go to a house that I grew up in. This is the house that I lived in from the time I was 5 until I was 11. And my parents sold it, and it was in the same family for 30-something years, and it came on the market again, and so I bought it back from the people that my parents sold it to. And it didn't have air conditioning, it didn't have anything. I mean, it was a real house that had not been touched. And the lesson that I learned here was that a house really you need to put your own stamp on it. You have to, because again, I experienced this as my parents' house, so I had to very clearly say, this is my house, this is a house that reflects me and my interest and my tastes. And I think the lesson that I really learned about on this project, this house, was the importance that every home should really have a feeling of being layered, but layered with your interests, your passions. So this is the living room, and so again, it's a very eclectic mix. It doesn't look like my parents' living room. It's got a mixture of contemporary art, and there's a Cocteau and a Stella, and yet then here is a school of Caravaggio. So it's a mixture of all different things, reflecting who I am. Taking the next room, which was, this had been the room that this had been the family room when I was a kid. I watched the first man land on the moon on a television right where this console table was. But I decided that I actually didn't want, and the dining room was a big formal room, and I decided I didn't need a big formal dining room. So I turned that into the family room and turned this, which had been the family room, into a dining room. But because I don't use a dining room all the time, I also turned it into a library. So the lesson here was, if you're not using a space, figure out what will get you to use it. So here was a great place for me to use my books, to go do research, etc., when I wasn't using it as a dining room. And the bedroom, again, was an example of a space that is layered. So you've got this picture. This is one of my great-great-grandparents. Then with my books, with all my different things. So it's a room that's really layered and complex. I look at magazines, I don't know about you, I look at magazines with houses that are clean and simple with no objects all around. And I think they look great. I go, oh, I'd love that. But those rooms look great in magazines. But think about it. We all have stuff. We've all got the dog leash. You've got your computer. You've got your iPhone. You've got your eyeglasses. You've got the newspaper. Once you add all those elements to those clean, spare rooms, they don't look so good anymore. They look messy. All those things look out of place. So to me, a room that actually has layers is more accommodating for the way everyone lives. So again, the lesson that I really talked about is the importance of the layered look. And fashion has understood the layered look forever and ever and ever, all the way back to antebellum times. This is a picture from the haute couture shows that were just in Paris 3 weeks ago, and the New York Times called out that the layered look is bigger than ever. The layered look is a more complex look. It's a look that actually is more interesting to live in, when you're wearing, or to live in as a home. So again, here's an example of where you've got bookcases that actually have art mixed in, have objects mixed in. It's this whole mixture of different things that start to reflect who you are. And that's a key part of every home, is that it reflects your interests, your personality, your travels. Here on the left is not being afraid to mix different objects. So on the left you might have an 18th century sculpture of Louis XV, and then these little cricket cages that I found when I was in Thailand. So it's a mixture of different things. On the left is a house we did in Venice, Italy, and they wanted a very contemporary house. So we did a contemporary house, but then mixed it with the glass that is so typical of Murano. Or here on the right, taking a mixture of classic furniture with a more contemporary table with a hide rug that we designed. So it's a mixture of all those different layering, and I think layering is a key part of a really good house that you actually don't get tired of looking at. Okay, we're going to go from there, we're going to go to Chicago, the Windy City. And so there's the wind blowing us in. And deep dish pizza, my favorite. This was a fascinating house. This was a client who I'd done a number of projects for. She has one of the finest modern art collections in the world. And what was interesting is she said, you know, all my other houses had been focused on displaying the art. And she said, but I want this house to really be one where I feel like I am as much a part of the house as my art. I do not want to feel like I'm living in a museum. So we very consciously designed it with a mixture of art and furniture that actually feels like art. So here we've got this 17th century Italian console mixed with the Picasso ceramics, mixed with the Robert Motherwell. The cocktail table on the left, which I designed, which again feels like a piece of art because it's glass painted on the backside that's become that had mirror added onto it, and then has different kinds of metals and stones mixed with it. Here, hang on. Here in the living room, this is the cover of my book, all these wonderful Frank Stellas, and we purposely hung the Stellas around the fireplace, around the chandelier, so that it felt like it was integrated. It wasn't, the art wasn't saying, look at me, I'm the star. The art is saying, I'm important, but living in this space is important as well. And that coffee table is actually, we had that made, where the first 6 inches is upholstered, soft and cushy, so you put your feet up onto it, and then it transitions into a hard surface, but it's all covered in faux leather, so you don't have to worry about if you spill, etc. And so again, it's comfortable elegance that is all integrated into the space. Or the powder room, where yes, there's that wonderful Miro, but then I designed the vanity to feel like a piece of art as well. So you have the wonderful sculptured wood base, then the bronze top, which exactly mirrors it. Or on the right, where you can see, I put that mirror directly over the fireplace to reflect the Jasper Johns that's above the owner's bed. So she can look at the Jasper Johns while she's still in bed. So again, it's that aspect of taking and the lesson that I really learned on this one more than any other project was the importance of using art and mirrors in your house, but to use them without making them become overwhelming. And so the subject that I really learned is art and mirrors, and how you can do this in your own home. So let me just start with art. So here's a project where they had a wonderful San Francis collection, and the designer who had done this house before had painted all that beautiful paneling, but they painted it 3 different colors. So all of a sudden you didn't even know what to look at. Were you looking at the painting? Were you looking at the walls? What were you looking at? So here we just took the walls and turned them just into 2 colors, very simplified it, and let the art become more of a player. But we put that the Irish console table underneath it, because it is in its own way as a statement. So you needed to have both there. You didn't want one to feel like more of a star than the other. So again, it's the mixture of those elements together. Mirrors. I'm a huge advocate of mirrors. Mirrors, not from a vanity perspective. I often tell clients we need to get more mirrors in there, and they'll say, no, I don't want to look at myself. And I say, we're not using it for that. We're actually using it as a way to open up a room, to reflect light. So here on the right, this was a doorway which we didn't need anymore. But I didn't want to just drywall over it. So we actually kept the depth of that doorway. I put a mirror in the back. I took a frame as if it was a frame, and carved it around the opening. So we did that, and then actually hung a mirror on top of the mirror, hung a console on top of the mirror. What it does is it gives that sense of depth and perspective. So mirrors are one of the best tricks that anyone can add to a house, and make it, and again, it's not from a perspective of looking at yourself, but as a way of opening up a room, of adding light into a dark corner of a room. So to the left is quite an unusual use of mirrors, a lot of mirror going on, but there it's sort of using mirrors as a trick of the eye. On the right is a picture from my former Chateau Grand Lucé, which had 18-foot ceilings. And so again, I took the one painting on top of another, because that helps fill the space, and then found this mirror, which was the full height. And again, what that does is it starts to reflect the details of the space. Imagine if you just had just a small mirror that was sort of stopping right here, which is where a typical mirror would stop. You'd have all this empty space. So again, it's using art and mirrors to fill the space, to give it depth, to give it texture. So in addition to the fact that you might like the picture, the painting, whatever it is, it's serving a purpose in terms of the space and how you fill that space. And I just want to say, just as an aside, research actually shows that you stop seeing any item after 3 months. So if you have a painting on your wall, you actually that's been there for more than 3 months, you're actually not even noticing it anymore. So it's one of the cheapest tricks I can tell you. Move your paintings around. Just move things around, move your furniture around. You can redecorate your house with your own things, and you will feel like you've got a whole new house. So again, but the easiest way is moving paintings around, because you'll actually feel like you just went out shopping and bought some new paintings. So again, that was the important lesson there. Okay, we're almost done on this world tour. We're going to go to Brentwood, California, and this was an interesting house. It was a brand new house that the clients, it had been built on spec, and so as you know, when you build a spec house, you make it as neutral and bland as possible so that it can be appeal to as many people as possible. That was a good idea, except they hadn't met my clients, because my clients were all about color. So you can sort of see that we actually have blue shutters and a red door, and inside we also went for a lot of color. This is the living room, and they said, you know what? Again, I gave my whole speech about it. We're not going to have a room that you're not going to use. And they said, well, we're never going to use that living room because it's at the front of the house. It's not where we want to be. And so I kept talking to them and trying to figure out what would get them to use it more. And the wife was a writer, and she said, I know, maybe if I put my books there, I would use it more. So we actually put floor to ceiling, wall to wall bookcases, not just on this wall, but on the all around the room. So you can see they're there. So she has all of her books. These are photos of famous writers. And then we took mirror. So there's a perfect example. Behind all those bookcases, you can see that that's mirror. And what it's doing is it's actually making the room feel brighter and lighter. If you had that whole wall of books, it would feel a little overwhelming. It would feel a little oppressive. But by taking all that mirror, here, you get the light. And that's just simple mirror. It's easy to do. You just put it on the back of the bookcase and then put the shelves in. Easy thing to do. I've done it with wallpaper, and it makes a huge difference. Just put some wallpaper in the back of a bookcase, and it makes it feel more interesting. So again, another interesting thing. But this room was all about color. They really wanted color, so we've got the blue and red. Here's the dining room next door. Again, wonderful, strong colors. And the kitchen, which has this bright color. So you can tell these people are not afraid of color. And the thing that I really learned about this was the importance of color. I've always believed that color was important. I serve on the advisory board for Benjamin Moore, which is sort of the king of color in terms of paints. And what I learned is that the power of color is so important for how you experience a space. So I'm going to give you some examples. Blue. Blue is the favorite color around the world. 60% of the people around the world say blue is their favorite color. And the reason is that people associate color with either situations or objects or feelings. So blue people associate with blue skies, clean blue water, happy times. So it's the color that people, when they want to feel happy, blue is that color that just triggers that. So again, it's sort of not surprising that it's the favorite color. I'm going to go to, this is just to show some bold use of color and how that creates some impact. Yellow. Researchers took the same room and they painted it 30 different colors, and they asked, what was your feeling about this? What was your feeling about that? What was in terms of your takeaway? People who see a yellow room think it's brighter and lighter than the white room, even though it's not the brighter and lighter room, because your eye translates yellow to sunlight. So you think it's sunnier and brighter and happier. So this powder room, which had no windows, we took this yellow wallpaper, and it all of a sudden feels like this bright, cheerful room. So what would have otherwise been a sort of a dark, sort of depressing room all of a sudden became this light, bright room. Red is the color of energy and of hunger and of passion. So it's no surprise that many, many grocery stores use red as the handlebar on the cart, because it actually makes you buy more, because you're hungry. So red is an important room. Red's great for a dining room. It's great for a living room. Using some red, I think, sparingly in a living room is great. I don't think it's necessarily great for a bedroom, because it's going to create a lot of drama, and it's not the most peaceful space. Green is one of the most interesting colors. Green is the color that actually communicates both energy and tranquility at the same time. It also communicates health. So it's one of the reasons that the green rooms are what they are, green rooms off of television sets and theater, because you get restored, but you also get energized simultaneously. They work in a very positive way. So this was a client who wanted their home office to feel very invigorating, but not feel like they were at work. So again, green was the choice for that. So we're actually going to go to this house next. This is a fascinating house, and buckle your seatbelts, because this is a wild house, I promise you. This is really crazy. This is one of the largest private estates in Beverly Hills. It's 16 acres. This is the amphitheater here, with seating here. This is one of the 2 pools. This is the pool house right here. It's enormous. It's got stables. In the middle of Beverly Hills. This is one wing of the house. It's a very traditional. It's a listed landmark house. It's very staid and very traditional on this outside. The only sense that you might get that there's something going on that's going to happen is this pink and orange and yellow awning. And these clients said to us, they said, Los Angeles, for being the creative capital of the world, because there's more television, film, music, and everything being created here, it's amazing how boring most design is in Los Angeles. And they weren't exactly wrong. Most Los Angeles houses are kind of beige, cream, they don't take risks at all. And if people are going to take risks, they do it with their art. And these clients said, we want every room to be a piece of art. We're not going to collect art. We want every room to be art. So get ready. Okay, this is the entrance hall. It's a 3-story staircase we did. You can see these bubbles that go 3 floors. There's actually a pink one of those plastic wands that kids blow bubbles out of at the very top, and these bubbles are big and they get smaller as they go down. This long central hallway with the unicorns at the end. Really kind of crazy room. This is, on the left is the library, and they said, we're never going to use that library. And I said, because it was sort of at the end of the house, and I said, well, let's figure out what you're going to use it for. So we turned it into the library of liquor. And so we took the bookcases and made them refrigerated wine coolers. We dropped a bar into the middle of the floor, so it's sunken. We took tortoiseshell and put out tortoiseshell on all the walls, and that is a life-size rock crystal Superman flying chandelier that's just as if he's just flown in from the windows. On the right is this crazy living room, again, where you can see those are the crystal chandeliers, which we dipped in chrome. Had this rock crystal bouquet made out of rock crystal for flowers. And this is probably my favorite room in the house. This is a breakfast room. It's an octagonal breakfast room. And I discovered a craftsman in South Africa who actually could take leaves, infuse them with glycerin, and they stay fresh and green and supple for around 20 years. And so we got all these leaves, we attached them to fabric, and so all the walls now are made out of real leaves. So you can see the walls are all draped in leaves. The ceiling has got the same leaves. We took a tree trunk and made it into a table. Even the chandelier has got, I found an artisan in Paris who would make this chandelier with little leaves on it. So again, it was just this wonderful, playful space. And I think that hang on, going backwards, hang on. Now you're gonna see it's gotta go through the whole thing, hang on, and then go backwards. Okay, and this was the artist's atelier in the room, which is very, again, sort of playful and colorful and very dramatic. And the thing that I learned on this house was that a little drama goes a long way. So they love it, and I think, as you know, I kept trying to put the brakes on them, but they kept saying, no, more. And I think they're thrilled with it. But what I learned is that you cannot have every part of a house be totally high drama, because it just becomes a little overwhelming. So the thing we're going to talk about is how you use drama and surprise, but in a good way. And there are actually, I think, probably 4 rooms in a house where you can go for some drama and surprise. The first is a dining room. You're not in a dining room for very long. So you can actually, and you want to make it feel special and festive. So on the left is a room we did for Dolce & Gabbana. And so we had this fabric all painted, hand painted. And then I designed this dining table that reflects with mirror on the top, which will reflect up to the wonderful ceiling. And then all the 18th century chairs done in different colors of velvet. So a dining room is a great place to go for drama. An entrance hall is a great place because you immediately make a statement. Again, this is a very sort of formal very impressive house, and you wouldn't expect that, bright red and those kind of colorful curtains. It sort of says, hey, an entrance hall sort of says, get ready, this is what you're going to experience. You're going to experience something fun or nice in my house. So an entrance hall, you can use drama and surprise. A guest bedroom, great place to use drama and surprise. Again, I wouldn't do it for a master bedroom or a room you're going to sleep in every day because it becomes a little overwhelming. But as a guest room, how wonderful to have that bright orange and the cobalt blue. It's a whimsical, wonderful place for them to come and stay for a couple of days. And that's the key word, a couple days. You don't want them to stay too long. So again, you don't want it to become too comfortable. And a powder room. A powder room is a great place to go for high drama. And again, here's one where we sort of played with mirror everywhere to make this sort of a wonderful space. So those are 4 rooms where I think drama and surprise can be added with real impact to a house. I want to show you a room that you're going to say, well, how is drama and surprise using there? Well, looks like a nice traditional living room where in fact there is a screen that comes down right here, right up here. This pointer doesn't work very well, hang on. Right up here. There's a projector. These chairs swivel, they recline. These chairs move, the sofa all becomes a recliner. It's a screening room that also is a living room. So again, it's like taking and using your rooms for multi-purposes and taking and making it a surprise that way. So that was the lesson that this project shows. And in the book, there's many other ways where I talk about how you can use drama and surprise. But we're going to go to our last house for the day. We're going to go to the North Shore of Chicago, to Lake Forest. And we're going to go to this house's gardener's cottage. So it was a wonderful, wonderful house, this wonderful house, and they sold off the gardener's cottage. And our clients bought it as just a weekend house for them to go to. And so it's to show that this was a tiny, I think this house was 2,400 square feet. So it's not a big house. And the key thing we're going to talk about here is you're going to see, it's a lovely, we did beautiful gardens for them. This was the living room, and what this was about, I was taking all those elements that I talked about earlier. It's got symmetry, it's got the closed seating area, it's got equal balance of lights, it's got great art. This was the original greenhouse, which we turned into the real formal, or the informal living room. It becomes the place where they live most of the time. But we air conditioned it, we heated it, we used fabrics and materials that could live indoors, outdoors. You can see the pools just beyond the greenhouse. You can come in with your wet bathing suit. And the kitchen, we purposely did chairs that were comfortable, covered in outdoor performance fabrics. So you could spill on it, didn't matter. But they also had the fully upholstered, so you could sit there for hours and read the paper and have coffee. Or the master bedroom, which was just in all these soothing, pale colors that had some greens and creams, but it reflected all the trees that were outside. So I think this was a wonderful example for me of, I think, the most important thing that I've learned as a designer, and that is this. This is the single most important element of every successful house. When I was first named to the Architectural Digest 100, I'd been a designer for around 5 years, and when I was named to this list of top architects and designers in the world, the reason they said because I was introducing the revolutionary idea that the most beautiful room is not successful unless it is also comfortable. And I think that that's something that designers far too often forget, is that a room has to be comfortable first and foremost. A beautiful room that is not comfortable, you're not going to enjoy being in. And when I'm working with my design team, I use this photo a lot, and I say, I want people to feel safe, I want them to feel coddled, I want them to feel taken care of in these rooms, because I think that is really what is a successful house. So let me talk about comfort, because comfort is lots of different ways. For many, many years, outdoor furniture, this is a picture from around maybe 18 years ago from my career. Outdoor furniture was uncomfortable. It was, there was Brown Jordan, there were these nice brands, but they really weren't very comfortable. They were not the living room outside that you want your living room to be. You want your outside to be. So I actually designed this furniture. It had teak frames, it had outdoor foam, and then it had outdoor fabric. So you could live comfortably outdoors. Now there are many companies that sell wonderful, comfortable furniture for outdoors, but the bottom line is you want your furniture to be comfortable. I'm lucky enough to be staying at my sister and brother-in-law's house here in DC, and their daughter had convinced them to buy some chairs, and they were wonderful, pretty chairs, but they just weren't comfortable. And I walked in, and my brother and I put his pillows up behind this low chair so we could lean back and and I said, the problem is that chair was designed to what it looks like, but not how you sit in it. And you have to look at furniture, you have to look at things ergonomically. How are you going to live with it? Is it going to fit your needs? Are you watching television? Does it have a high enough back to support your head? If you're going to be reading, does it have arms that will support your arms when you're reading, etc.? So comfort is a key element when you talk about the physical, how you live with furniture, but there are two other aspects of comfort. So there's the physical aspect, and that's the one that everyone thinks about, but there are two other ways of comfort that are very important also. The next is, let's face it, we've all got dogs or kids, or we ourselves do that. We spill, we make messes. It's a key way that it makes rooms uncomfortable. We've all been in houses where the hostess says, don't put that there, don't put your feet there. Well, she's not comfortable in her own house, and you're certainly not going to be comfortable. And I think what's great is that there are now wonderful materials and available that let you live in your house comfortably. This is from my collection of perennials fabric, which you can put bleach on, you can do anything, and it doesn't stain. We have rugs, we've developed rugs that actually you can put red wine, permanent magic marker, whatever, it all comes out with bleach. So it's indestructible. And when you can find, and this is just one company that does that, but when you can find and use materials that let you live really comfortably in your space where you're not worrying about it, you will be more comfortable, and you will communicate that to your guests. And to just another example of that is we put marine varnish. This is an 18th century Spanish table. We put marine varnish on all of our pieces of furniture, which come from our design firm. You simply put marine varnish. It could be high. This was a semi-gloss. You can put matte. You can put whatever finish you want, but it allows you to put a drink down on and not leave a mark. It allows you to put your coffee cup and not leave a white ring. It's like one of those miracle cures that allows you to live in your house. It allows you to use your furniture without worrying about how you use it. And so that is one of the other key elements. Is just this practical aspect of comfort. So that takes us on our world tour. We're going to let me just remind you of where we've been. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about scale and proportion and how you can use them to address a room's strengths as well as its shortcomings. We're going to next remember symmetry, how it puts you at ease, and that there are 4 different forms of symmetry. On our world tour, we talked about architectural details and how they truly do make a room or home feel more special, and how it's very easy to add them to a house. The impactful surfaces, they add richness and depth to a space. Again, it's a question of whether you just add wallpaper, add something to the floor, etc. It'll help make that space feel more special. The layered look, which is that aspect of curating the objects you love, letting them be around you. Don't just put them all in a drawer. Let them be around you, and so you can see them and you can enjoy them. And it makes your house feel easier to live in when you bring your other things that are part of daily life. The next is the importance of art and mirrors. It's one of the biggest challenges I get as clients is to say, you know what, just putting something on that wall, I don't care if it's a poster from the museum, it's going to make that space feel better. It does not have to be high quality art, but putting art on your walls, using mirrors to provide other elements besides looking at yourself is a great element and great trick. The next is the power of color, how it creates a mood for a room, which is so important. And drama and surprise, that it creates impact in the rooms that are used less often. Again, you don't want it everywhere. You don't want it in the rooms that you're going to be using a lot, but they make a lot of impact if you use them carefully. And finally, that there are three different elements of comfort: the physical, the practical, and the emotional. And that if you get all of those right, you're actually creating spaces that allow you to be your very best self. So those are hopefully the tips you took away from this trip around the world. And I just want to close with the summary, which is the new Elegance is really applying basic design principles to every space in your house. Don't ever sacrifice comfort for beauty. Use every room in your house. If you've got a room in your house that you're not using, figure out what's going to get you to use it. I wasn't using my living room, so I put a desk in my living room, and now when I come home from work, I go with my laptop and I sit in my desk rather than going right up to bed and doing my laptop in bed. So use every room in your house. That elegance should be a part of your life every single day, and that a comfortably elegant space really does allow you to be your very best self. So I just want to just finish with this quote from Salvador Ferragamo, and I think it's a wonderful quote, if I can get the thing to go forward, if I'm doing it right. Okay, now I'm pushing. There we go. And this is from Ferragamo. Elegance and comfort are not incompatible, and whoever maintains the contrary simply doesn't know what he's talking about. So thank you very much. I just want to conclude this by saying life is short, so use your fine china. So thank you. I'd love to open it up for questions, if anyone's got any questions. It could be about anything at all. So any questions at all, I'd love. Yes, a question right here.
Okay, in light of the success of the Mario Boada auction at Sotheby's, do you think that his love of color and abundance and everything that we associate with his style, do you think that's going to return, or do you think minimalism has...
Did everyone hear the question? Okay, so the question is minimalism here to stay, or are we going to see a change back towards, there was a recent sale of Mario Boada's furniture which sold really well at auction, etc. So it's really, where are we going? Design is like history, it's like everything else. It's always on a pendulum. If you think about it, you went from the excess of Rococo to the simplicity of neoclassicism. You went from the Victorian period with all that excess to arts and crafts. You went from Art Nouveau, which was very curly and soft, to Art Deco, very linear. It's always going back and forth. You go from the excess of the 80s to mid-century, the minimalism we've had recently, and it is definitely going back. In fact, it was the headline from Architectural Digest 2 weeks ago, which on their daily thing, that says, "Why are we all yearning for traditional?" And I will tell you, antiques are coming back. Even the dreaded brown furniture is coming back. Some antique dealers in Atlanta told me that young people were beginning to buy antiques because they found that they were no more expensive than buying things at Pottery Barn and Restoration Hardware, and they didn't have this. And they had better quality. So yes, you're seeing that. We're seeing it in color. When I developed a new collection for Schumacher, they said, well, you've always been about color, but we want even more color than you used to have. They said, we want more richness. So out of 8 patterns, 4 were cut velvets. So it's that we're definitely seeing that pendulum. And I think we're going to see it. It's going to continue to move. We're going to be seeing it more and more. Likewise, Benjamin Moore, they are seeing it, that color is definitely back. 3 years ago, the color was something like fog gray or whatever it is. Well, that's so over. You can tell. You walk into houses and you can tell when they were done based on the gray tone or whatever. So traditionalism and classicism is definitely coming back. So yay. Another question. Come out, great. Yeah, right here.
What's a project you're working on right now that you're most excited about sharing?
Okay, the question is, what project am I working on right now that I'm most excited about? I've got to tell you, we're doing a couple of fascinating ones. We're doing the American Embassy in Paris, which is great. We're doing the French Consulate in New York, which is great. We're doing, I think, probably the most unusual project of my entire career. It is a client, an Asian billionaire, who bought a British aircraft carrier that had been decommissioned and turned it into the world's largest private yacht. He stripped off the deck, stripped out everything all the way down, and I was brought on around 4 years into this project, and I said to him, wouldn't it have been cheaper to start from scratch? And he said, oh, we did all those studies. It would have been $131 million cheaper. And I said, okay, so I'm not the brightest guy in the room, but why would you do it then? And he said, because a British, American, or Russian battleship, because not all apparently naval ships are meant to go to war, but has access and uses the strongest steel in the world. So it is virtually impenetrable from icebergs and things like that, but it's really made for true seagoing, and whereas most yachts are meant to float around the Mediterranean or the Caribbean, and he plans to retrace Magellan's course backwards, starting in Asia and going back to Spain. So it's been a fascinating project because we've done some other yachts, but this is so big but it also, so that I said to him, you should be hiring a yacht designer, and he said, oh, we've gone through them. They just keep giving us yacht design. They don't understand this is the world's largest private yacht that's actually a mansion, but it just at sea. So we get to design it as if it's in London or Paris or somewhere else, and then his technical people figure out how to make it a yacht for a yacht. So it's a great project. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I'd be delighted to sign any books outside. So thank you so much. Thank you. I'm sorry there weren't more questions.
Should I go now or wait?
Things around the plates and the soups, which she did, and so